Of course. I'm so happy to be here with you guys talking about how and why to be humans on social media. This is definitely one of my most popular talks that I give because it really breaks down a system that I created, which we'll get into, a 6-point system that really allows you to effectively cut through the clutter and be seen on social media, whether you are building a personal brand or whether you're working at a business. So let's dive into it. So I'm Julia. I actually went to UB. I'm a graduate of the 3-2 program at UB. So essentially, I got my bachelor's in 3 years and got my master's in business administration for 2 years right after. So I graduated with both my BS and my MBA in from the University of Buffalo. And since doing that, I have gotten a lot of experience doing social media marketing. So I started my career out actually at the Buffalo News. I have been a brand manager at the the digital marketing manager at the Buffalo Niagara Partnership. I served as the social media director at Telesco Creative Group. I also served as a brand manager at Now Marketing Group, and now I am back in business for myself, doing social media marketing for area businesses. Like Andy said, I love the CoLab, love getting to work with the CoLab, and they're just such an incredible resource for you guys to really help you with starting your own business. So whether you guys are interested in getting more information about having your own business or you're interested in working at a marketing agency, you guys can always feel free to reach out after this talk and ask me questions. I'm always happy to help you guys. And you'll see my social media handle is jbethjs. It is down in the corner of this presentation if you guys want to connect after this presentation. So it is my fundamental belief that every single person has a bright light within them. Everyone has something that they are uniquely good at. They have gifts, but it is up to us to share those gifts with the world. And I really started to kind of figure out what that looked like when I went to grad school at the University of Buffalo. I started getting really into Seth Godin at the time, and I actually got to meet Seth Godin when he went and spoke at the Buffalo News. And I don't know if you guys know who Seth Godin is, but he is basically like the father of marketing. He is a international best-selling author. He is the author of, at a minimum, 18, it could be at this point 19 books that have been bestsellers around the world that have been translated into 35 different languages. And Seth writes about the post-industrial revolution, the ways ideas spread. He writes about marketing, quitting, leadership, and change. He's really, really big about adaptability and change leadership. And so Seth has a daily blog, and he actually put out a blog post years ago where he was like, hey, I'm doing this weekend workshop called Ruckus Makers, and here's a link that you can apply to get into this workshop. And I somehow was lucky enough to be selected as one of 70 people out of thousands. I think there were like 6,000 applications for this weekend workshop. I got lucky enough to get a spot in this workshop, and I got to spend a weekend with 69 other brilliant business owners and creatives who were really interested in marketing. And Seth said so many different things throughout that weekend that really got me thinking and really started to open my mind as it related to marketing. And the one thing he asked us is, would they miss you if you were gone? And that question really stopped me in my tracks that weekend because I realized at that time in my career, I didn't feel like I was creating something that if I stopped creating it, people would miss. And it really made me think. I was like, well, what do we have to do if we want to be missed? How do we become sought after creators and influencers and just individuals in the world and online? And I realized we have to go deeper, right? We have to be unique. And I started thinking about the people who, if they stopped showing up on social media, I would miss them. And it was people like Lisa Hayem, who was really open and transparent in her pregnancy journey. And it was people like My Face Story, who share the less than glamorous parts of just being a human in the world, right? She shares all about her acne journey. And those are the people that if they stopped showing up, I would miss them. And it made me realize that surface level content generates surface level responses. If you want to go deeper, well, if you want your audience to go deeper with you, you have to go deeper with them. You have to be the person who starts sharing a little bit more. And that's how you really create a connection to your audience. And that's why my whole thing is the anti-highlight reel. If you follow me on any of my social channels, you will see that I do not just post the pretty, perfect moments. In fact, if you actually go look at my Instagram story, literally today, you will see I shared a little song that helped put me in a good mood today because I had a really hard day yesterday. And I shared that on my social media story, and I shared this little song saying, listen, sometimes you have a hard day, but you put on a little fun, funky song, and it helps set the tone for a better next day. Because I fully believe that the more that we share the positive and the negatives, the more we make social media a good place to be, and the more we create trust online. And at the end of the day, trust is everything, whether it's in person or online. And if you guys, again, go check me out on TikTok, I need to update these little screenshots desperately because I don't have 2,000 followers on TikTok. I've got like 6,000 followers by now, but I'll update those, I promise. And I showed this little example here of a pinned video. I show this as an example because this video is not fancy. It's not overly produced. There's nothing that special about it. In fact, I literally just took my phone, propped it up when I was driving on a beautiful sunny day, and I was overcome with emotion. I actually started crying. And I had this feeling and I shared it on TikTok, and that video at this point now has over 1 million views. And it really hit with people because it was the anti-highlight reel. I talked about how I feel like sometimes when it's really sunny out, especially in Buffalo, we feel this pressure that we like have to have a good day. We have to be in a good mood because we have to like maximize the sunshine. But it's okay to not have a good day, period. And it's okay to not have a good day when it's sunny out. And I made a little video, put it up there, and that really resonated with people. And the video, that was my first viral video ever on TikTok. And through being myself and through sharing not just the glamorous moments, I've had opportunities to work and get paid by brands to talk about their products. So brands like Go Macro and Canyon Bakehouse have paid me to talk about their brands because they know that there is so much power in small creators who are honest and vulnerable with their audiences online. So today we're going to talk all about how we got here. We're going to talk a little bit about the evolution of the web and social media. We're going to talk about the power of social media, what the humans system is, my 6-point system, and then we're going to just summarize it and put it all together. So the evolution of the web, it started out as a read-only place. It was decentralized. And by read-only, I mean it was like Google, Yahoo, it was search engines where at the start of the internet, you could go online, you could type in a query and get access to a bunch of information. And that was revolutionary when it came to be. But then it kept evolving. And then what happened was we went into Web 2, which was participatory. That was when we started to see social media channels like Facebook and Instagram and YouTube. It started to become a conversation. It wasn't just I can type in a query and get information. It was I can make a profile and I can connect with people all around the world. And now we're in Web3, which is there are no intermediaries, and Web3 is all about exclusive access and immersive experiences. So like I told you guys, Web 1 was Google, Web 2 was social media, and Web 3 is really where we're living right now. And it's all about that exclusive access and experiences for your audience. Travis Scott is a great example, and I'm not a Travis Scott fan. I just love using this as an example because it shows the power of Web3. During the pandemic, Travis Scott hosted a concert with a digital avatar where he performed from the comfort of his home through this digital avatar. And there were something like 12 million people who attended. And Travis Scott made $20 million doing this concert on Web3. He didn't even have to leave his house. And he made $20 million because he created this like exclusive experience where specific certain fans got access and they got this incredible time with him where they were able to see him perform where other people weren't able to do that. That exclusivity and the kind of rarity of that type of event is why it was so big and why it was so successful for him. So now that we understand that exclusive access and making our fans feel really important is top of mind when it comes to being successful on social media, let's talk about the power of social media because social media lets us do so much. Through social media, we can understand our audience. And I love the example of Yeti. Yeti is a brand that really listens to their audience. Yeti had this line of charcoal drinkware that they had retired. And they started getting all of this feedback from their customers on social media, being like, we want the charcoal drinkware back. Why don't you guys have that anymore? I looked on the website and I don't see it anymore. And so Yeti did this campaign where they said, you asked, we listened. We brought charcoal drinkware back from the ashes, but this time it's here to stay. And they had retired the charcoal drinkware line because it wasn't performing as well as they had hoped. And so they had kind of like shut down that line. They got all this feedback on social media. They reintroduced the line of charcoal drinkware and they saw record sales for the first few months after relaunching this product to their site because they did it all under the premise of you asked, we listened. They showed their audience that they were actively listening to feedback, and that is so, so important to do on social media. Social media also lets us show off our personality. And this post from Commercial Collection Corp of New York is so good because it shows a little bit of the brand's personality, right? Like social media lets your brand be a little bit humorous or be a little bit friendly or be a little bit unprofessional. And in doing that, you can really gain a following because people love to see a little personality through a brand. And people love seeing photos of dogs and babies, right? So when you can be creative as a brand to kind of include visuals that you know people like, that's going to be really effective. Social media also lets us connect to our customers. And Coco Kind is an exceptional example of a business who understands the power of social media. Because Coco Kind, when they first came to market, and now you can get Coco Kind in like Target, they are a major skincare brand. But when they first launched to market, no one knew who they were. And so they sent their products to customers all over the country, and they had their customers take pictures with the products. And those pieces of marketing, those social media graphics were way, way more impactful and drove much more engagement than if the brand were to have just taken a picture of that exact same lotion or body lotion. If they had just taken a picture of that and put it against a white background, that would not have driven nearly the same number of likes for the brand. Because user-generated content is so incredibly powerful. And this is something that through my business, I work with a ton of different businesses to help them figure out how do we make more user-generated content. 84% of consumers say that they trust their peers above all other sources of advertising. So it's a no-brainer that as a business, you want to get your product in the hands of people, and or even if you're a service-based business, you want to get your product in the hands of people who see it, like it, understand it, and have those people speak on your behalf, right? Like if you guys like this talk and if you walk away with value, it is so much more valuable to me for you guys to post on social media, to take a little picture of these slides and post on social media and tag me and say, hey, I loved seeing Julia speak today. That is going to be better for my business than if I were to just make a post and say, hey, I spoke today at the CoLab. Because having other people speak on behalf of you or your brand is always going to have more influence. 9.8 times, like consumers find it nearly 10 times more impactful. So it's just to say these stats show the power of it. Word of mouth marketing generates more than twice the sales of paid advertising. Millennials not only trust this kind of content, but they contribute to creating this kind of content a lot. So social media is also powerful because it lets us collaborate with partners. And I love the example of Rachel's Good Eats and this Seattle-based ice cream shop. Essentially, Rachel and this ice cream shop collaborated. They used her cookie, they used their ice cream, and for Ice Cream Sandwich Day, when they opened, they had lines wrapped around blocks of people waiting to get their hands on this product because she had such a large audience and she promoted it and people trust her online. You can also grow brand awareness so successfully through social media. So just like I mentioned, Coco Kind, Siete Foods, who is now owned by Pepsi, like Siete was a tiny little family-owned brand that when they first came to market in, I think it was like 20, maybe 15, they sent products, they sent boxes of their product to food influencers all over the country, and that's how they exploded in popularity. And then fast forward 9 years, last year they sold their company, their little family owned and operated company, they sold to PepsiCo for an outrageous amount of money. And so it's just to say this is extremely effective. You can literally start a mom and pop, super small beverage or food business. And if you get your product in the hands of the right people who have huge audiences, you can watch your company explode with massive growth and maybe end up being bought by Pepsi. But here's the thing, there's a downside of social media, and I think it would be irresponsible for me to just speak only about the positives because, like I told you guys, my whole thing is the anti-highlight reel. My whole thing is recognizing both the pluses and the minuses that exist when it comes to social media. And you guys know it because you live and breathe it too, that on social media, people are showing off their best. They show off their best selfies, their best meals, their best vacation photos. People aren't usually going on social media and saying, like, hey, my day was really hard because I lost a client. Or my day was really hard because I got into a fight with my boyfriend, right? People don't usually share that kind of stuff, but actually, that's the kind of stuff that when you do share, you really create a connection with people because people aren't expecting to see anything but the best on social media. And as a result of that, because everyone's showing their best, it creates a lot of comparison. A lot of times people go on social media and they look at other people's posts and then they end up feeling worse about themselves. And it's also because of the vanity metrics. People look and they see, oh, my post didn't get this many likes. I don't have this many followers. But the reality is I promise, because I am living proof, you can build a six-figure income business yourself through social media without having a huge audience, without having a huge follower, without getting hundreds and thousands of likes. By just showing up, being consistent, and being honest and trustworthy, you can grow a really, really successful business. And the reality is that vanity metrics truly don't matter. I just shared how I've been able to grow a very successful business for myself without all the vanity metrics. And Instagram itself knows that these vanity metrics are not that powerful because Instagram itself removed or like added a functionality where you can literally take away, like you don't have to show how many people liked your photos on your Instagram if you don't want to. And if you Google, you will find article after article that talks about the negative impact that social media has on our mental health. And so it's so important to just recognize that so that we can empower ourselves to not let these platforms be detrimental to our mental health. And the last downside when it comes to social media is there is an overemphasis on ROI. I promise you, you are not going to start posting and within a week, you're going to go viral and have a million customers or have a million sales. That is not how it works. And when we focus too much on the return on investment and not enough in some of those softer metrics like trust and brand sentiment, we get things wrong because if you are only going on social media to try to drive sales, I promise you, you will, number one, you will burn out, and number two, you will not drive those sales. But if you go on social media with the goal of providing value and having fun and creating connection, you will end up driving more sales and it'll be way more fun and you won't burn out nearly as quickly. I lied. I said that was the last downside. This is the last downside. Social media is extremely time consuming. If you work in social media, you know that all of these things are tasks that you're likely doing. You're making a strategic plan. You're answering questions on your post. You're engaging your community. You're strategizing new ideas, analyzing post performance. You're creating reports. You're monitoring hashtags. You're creating graphics. You're making videos. You're writing content. And to do all of those things, you need different skill sets. You need to be creative, analytical, forward thinking, organized, fast moving, adaptable, creative, charismatic. You need to be a strong writer, a strategic thinker. You need to be well informed about the brand. You need to be thoughtful, friendly, reliable, creative, all the things. It's so much when you break it down, how much goes into social media. It's not just, oh, I make a post and put it up and that's it. I spend hours every single day managing not just my platforms, but the platforms of my clients. And that's how I've successfully grown a team of social media freelancers and graphic designers and video editors and paid ads experts, is because I could never do it all myself. I would be working 24 hours a day and I would be burnt out because there is always something else to do on social media, whether it's monitor a hashtag, whether it's check out the competition, whether it's sit down and just scroll for inspiration, whether it's looking at trending sounds. It is a constant stream of things to do. And that's why you have to be so mindful about where you put your time and what you prioritize. Because the reality is when you prioritize things right, you see so many upsides to being on social media. You see that it's so cost effective. You can reach so many people through your posts, and you can reach a lot of people through organic content. You don't even have to pay for ads to reach hundreds of thousands, even millions of people if you're doing things right. And that's way more cost effective than a billboard or a radio spot that you can't even measure. There are endless opportunities on social media. Like I said, as many ideas as you have for posts or for creative concepts or campaigns, you can just execute all of those. And what's so great about social media is you're the driver. Like you get to decide how much you're going to do. You get to decide how much of your personality you're going to share. You get to decide how much of your personal life you're going to share. And that's really empowering. For me, I've decided that I'm going to share a lot of my personal life. That's been a choice of mine for my social media. And so I have videos. If you really want to scroll all the way back to 2020, you can see a video of me crying and sharing some insights that I had from a panic attack. If you want to go to Scrub Daddies, you will also see their version of their personality, right? And Scrub Daddy has a tremendously big following because they've added personality into what they do. And so at the end of the day, social media is so powerful and it's such an upside because it's humanizing. You get to really showcase the human behind the business and you get to turn handshakes into hugs. That's something that one of my mentors, Brian Fanzo, has always said. And Brian is actually someone who really helped open doors for me and show me the power of your network and your connections combined with your social media presence. Because in 2020, I lost my job at Telesco Creative Group as the social media director. The pandemic hit, budgets were tight, we were losing clients, and so they had to let me go. And the exact day that I lost my job, I got a text from Brian. You can see Brian's right here next to me and Jessica. And Jessica's a woman who owns a marketing agency. And Brian texted me 3 hours after I was laid off from my job, and he said, "Hey, friend, how's it going? I don't know how things are going for you at the agency that you work at, but I have a really, really good job opportunity for you with Jessica Phillips at her marketing agency. I think you have to reach out and you just have to talk to her." He's like, "I know you love your agency in Buffalo. You just got to talk to Jessica and hear about this opportunity. It's perfect for you." And I said, "Brian, I literally just lost my job. I would love nothing more than to talk to Jessica." And so I ended up getting a job that I didn't even apply for, that I didn't even know existed because of the power of my network and my social media. Jessica took a look through all of my social media, and her and I had met in person at a conference about a year before. And through my social media presence, she knew this is the girl I need on my team because she was able to see all of my work samples through my social media. Every video that you make on your social media can serve as an example of how you make videos for brands and for businesses. And that could open up doors that you never even knew existed. Because what works on social media is what works in real life. Quality matters more than quantity. The quality of your content, the quality of your relationships matters so much more than the quantity. And humanity. Humanity is what matters. People want to work with people who they know, like, and trust. And when you show up on social media as your authentic self, you are able to build that know, like, and trust factor online. I've had so many people who have followed me on social media for years, and then we meet in person at an event and they say, "Oh my God, you're just like you are online." Yeah, I would hope so. I'd hope so. I'd hope that if you meet me in person, you feel like you're getting the same thing that you would have gotten if you watched one of my videos. I'm doing something terribly wrong. If you meet me in person, you're like, "Wait, this is no one, this is not even like the person who we've been following online." Right? You want to let your humanity shine through. And it's also when you do that, you really create close connections with your audience. I had a handful of different people reach out to me last week to be like, "How are you doing with the Taylor Swift engagement?" They know that I'm a big Taylor Swift fan. I had people checking in on me to see how I felt about the news because I've shared with my audience and just let them know things that excite me or things that I'm passionate about. And in that, I've created a connection to my audience. So now we're going to talk about how you can do exactly this. If you apply the humans system, I promise you that you will start to cut through the clutter and see more engagement and attention online for your brand or for a business that you're working at. I'm a big fan of acronyms. So the humans system, every single step in the system has a specific kind of action step. And so if you guys want to kind of take a picture of this slide, or you can always reach back out to me on Instagram, but this is the human system. And it starts with H, which is all about having a plan. You first have to have a plan for what you're doing on social media if you're going to be successful and if your efforts are going to be impactful. So the things to consider when you're planning for your social media and making that plan, who's your target audience? Who are you talking to? Who's the ideal person that you want to reach when it comes to your social media? What's your tone of voice? How do you come across? Are you super professional? Are you super casual? Are you friendly and energetic? Are you a little bit more kind of buttoned up and a little bit more of a stiff or stoic personality, right? Like I'm the opposite of stoic. I'm like a golden retriever, and you hear it in my voice, you see it in my facial expressions, you see it in my gestures, right? That's always going to be my tone of voice online. It's going to be my tone of voice in a speaking engagement, and it's going to be my tone of voice in person, right? Because I want that consistency for my brand. And when you're planning, you want to think about what are the tools and resources that you're going to use. Are you using specific apps to edit videos? Are you using specific tools to manage your content calendar? Thinking through the entire process is really important, because the last thing you want to do is have two people on your team who are in charge of the content calendar, and one of them started to make a Google Doc and the other one started to make a spreadsheet, and then 2 weeks later you're like, oh my God, we're using two totally different systems. You want to really think through a smart plan for all the different tools and resources you're using, and you want to think through how you're getting buy-in. Planning ahead for buy-in is so important, because as a part of a strong social media strategy, you're going to likely be asking your team, especially if you're working for an organization, you're going to ask your team for help. You're going to ask them, hey, do you mind taking a picture of that thing or making a little video for this particular thing? And you want your team to understand the reason behind why you're doing it. You want them to feel excited about it versus them feeling like it's a drag or a chore to contribute to your organization's social media. You also want to think through your calls to action. Plan ahead for what you're going to ask people to do on your posts, because then you can find ways to strategically infuse those calls to action into your content. And also plan ahead for how you're measuring everything. How are you measuring success, and what does success look like? For me, when I was working at that old agency, one of the things that we planned ahead for was a live video show that I created and hosted for that marketing agency. And for every single episode of that live show, I would make a Google Doc where I would write down all the information for the live show, who the guest was, what the topic was, what the interview questions were, what game we were playing on the live show that week. And this screenshot shows you there, by the time we were prepping for episode 8, I had already gone ahead and made the Google Docs up until episode 22, because I wanted to plan ahead. I knew that on episode 10, when we had Jessica, who was the head of our agency, I knew that a few weeks after having Jessica, we were going to get all these people reaching out and saying, hey, I want to be on the live show. I want to be on the live show. So I said, let me make a Google Doc, because I knew that we had guests booked for episodes 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, and 17, but I knew I also had open slots for episodes 18, 19, 20, 21, and 22. And so by making those Google Docs ahead of time and planning ahead, I was able to fill out our calendar with really strong guests and plan ahead and then promote them ahead of time. So now that we understand the importance of planning, we need to talk about understanding your special sauce, which is really like what sets you apart. What's the thing that makes you you? For me, it's my energy. Every time I do a speaking engagement, every time I do a live video, people are like, I love your energy. It's contagious. It's infectious. I'm so amped, right? You have to understand what is that thing that you bring into a room that people remark on. Because for me, yes, my social media knowledge is quite high. I have a lot of experience doing social media. And of course, that is why I'm brought in to speak and do different kinds of things with businesses, but it's also my energy. I can promise you I wouldn't be invited back to different organizations to speak if when I did speak, I was like, well, so what we're gonna talk about today. You guys would be bored and you'd be like, please don't bring that girl back next year to speak. That was really boring. No one liked her, right? You got to think, what's your thing? And your thing doesn't have to be your energy. Maybe your thing is that you are just so smart when it comes to this kind of thing. Or your thing is that you are so kind and genuine, and people can feel that in every interaction, right? You have to figure out what is that thing that you are so proud of that sets you apart, and what's the thing that other people remark on, because that is your special sauce. It's the thing that you know to be special about yourself, and the thing that other people will remark on and say to you, hey, I really like and or appreciate that, right? And it's the same for your organization. What is the thing that makes your organization stand out? At one of my old agencies, it was the team camaraderie. That's what made us stand out. And it's how we were able to do really fun team centric content, because that was our special sauce. And again, teams that show that team camaraderie, teams that put that front and center, like via evaluation, this is social media gold. This is really effective content, because this is the kind of stuff that drives engagement and catches people's eyeballs. Because at the end of the day, it's not about the platform, it's about your personality on the platform. If you have a strong enough personality, people will follow you from platform to platform. So next, it's about making a commitment to show up. And that means be yourself, right? You want to be yourself. And I did a live video show for years, and people would always come back time and time again. I had repeat viewers, and they would say, you have great tips no matter the subject. I love your broadcast. Consistency over everything. We adore you because you show up every Wednesday, right? So make a commitment to show up as yourself, but also make a commitment to show up consistently. I used to do a live show every single Wednesday at 10 a.m., and I did that live show for 8 years. For 8 years, I went live every single week. And it's how I was able to grow a loyal audience. And it's how I literally was able to get opportunities and invites for speaking gigs, is because if you go on live video every week for 8 years, you get very good at having to just go with the flow. You get very good at speaking to something live and knowing there's no edits, there's no filters. If I mess up, I got to just keep going, right? And so I did that because I knew it would help me build my skill. And I did it because I thought it was fun. And as a result, I was able to grow an audience, right? And my consistency in just being my goofy self, I work with Canyon Bakehouse, and there was one video. This honestly was probably a few years ago at this point. They sent me a package of buns, and in the video, I like pretended the buns were eyes, and I like did this little goofy thing, and I sent it to them, and I said, hey, if that's a little too weird or goofy, let me know and I can cut that out of the video. And they were like, are you kidding? This is our favorite part of the video. We love this. We love all the goofiness in the video. Brands love to see your personality. And you also need to make a commitment to engage often. Consistency plus value is how you create a community. So next, it's all about asking questions to involve your audience. Social media should not just be this place where you just post and like talk, and never listen. It should be a conversation. You should be asking your audience questions and involving them in what you're doing. So something that I did at the old agency that I worked at, because we were a marketing agency, I was like, what are some good questions that I could ask our audience that would drive engagement? And so one day I made a social media post on our Facebook page, and I said, if you had to get rid of every social media channel and you could only pick one, which one would you keep? And we used to never be able to drive 5 comments on our Facebook posts. But this particular post drove 20 comments for the agency. And we were like, oh, that was really effective. We just simply asked a question that was relating to the exact service that we provide as an agency, and we drove a decent amount of engagement. So asking questions is always a really, really strong way to show your audience that you care. So next, it is all about never stopping to learn because social media is constantly changing. So you need to learn why people are following you. You need to learn what is new with the platforms, and you need to learn new and innovative ways to capture attention. So I was always trying to learn, why does my audience follow me, right? So I would look through DMs or I would look through feedback that I got on my live video show. And this guy, Mike, would come back week after week and he said, I'm back for the positive attitude you always bring. And I was like, oh, he's following me for my energy. Someone else said, I'm having so much more fun on Instagram trying to be genuine. I'm so glad you shared a better way to show up. And someone else saying, I debated posting this, but I was watching your stories and I was like, Julia's been so open about feeling shame. I don't want to let shame control my life. Right. And so I learned a lot of the reason why my audience is following me is because I'm giving them permission to share a little bit more than just the highlight reel, and because I'm showing up with a positive energy and they appreciate that. And I'm never stopping to learn when it comes to different tools and different platforms and different resources, really. I've been social media certified through the HubSpot Academy, and I've done LinkedIn trainings and all of that stuff. That's so, so important to never stop learning. And also, you want to never stop learning what is working effectively on your pages. So these are some really old screenshots from my agency days. Through the strategy that I was able to implement at that marketing agency, we consistently saw growth. And that's how I knew that I was doing something right, is because when I would go look at our Facebook page reach and see, wow, over the last month, we grew our reach by over 300%. We grew our reach on Instagram by over 100%. We grew our Facebook and Instagram profile visits, one by 53%, one by 102%, and then again with the new likes and new followers. Every single month when I would check in, I would see that our reach was growing, our visits was growing, our likes were growing. And in that, I knew that I was doing something right. You need to never stop learning, never stop analyzing the numbers to see if the actions that you're taking are effective. And lastly, the last part in this system is about shining a light on the connections that you make, because that is so important, because social media is social. So you want to really talk about the connections that you're making and you want to shine a light on those. So something that I did at my old agency is we would do shout outs for our team for their birthdays and for their work anniversaries. And by shining a light on our teammates, we made them feel really good. And it was content that their friends and family loved to see because it was really feel good content. And shining a light on just you, what makes you different. One of my favorite people to follow online is Jera. Her handle's jera.bean. And she works in social media. And in this video, she said, my business is social media, and the value that I share revolves around social media. But the connection comes through sharing. And this list of things that this woman does, and a lot of people would be like, you can't do that and be professional online. But Jarrett is the perfect example to show that if you just show your personality and you have a really, really strong education in a topic, it doesn't really matter. People actually do want to see that. And so in Jera's videos, she shows her dogs, she eats cheese and crackers. She has this thing where every single year for her birthday, she takes a picture of herself. You see this thing that says sad birthday princess. Every year on her birthday, the girl puts on like a little princess crown and takes a photo of her looking like she's crying. And that's a thing she's been doing on social media for like 9 years. She has 9 years worth of photos of her being a sad birthday princess. And people literally in her audience, she has over 100,000 followers. When she starts to post like, oh, it's my birthday week, you will see in her content, people start being like, oh my God, can't wait to see this year's sad birthday princess. Her audience knows that this is something she does. She also is really goofy and she literally will do armpit farts in her videos. Again, things that most people would be like, you can't do that online. You can't do that and still seem professional. But this woman does it, and she is living proof that you can do these things. You can show your personality. You can be goofy and funny, and you can be your authentic self and still grow a wildly successful business. She has created a video editing course that she is now licensing to companies, and she's making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year in doing this. She has licensed her video course out to MAC Cosmetics and other major brands. Jera has also been hired by TikTok itself to do TikTok courses for different mega companies like Google and things like that. Like she has done really wild stuff on social media, working with really incredible, impressive brands just because she's herself. And so to put it all together, it's so important to remember that every single social media channel is different. So you want to treat each channel uniquely. Social media is all about building relationships and establishing trust. And you have to be patient because it does take time to do that. And you have to be willing to try new things. If you're not willing to try new things on social media, you're never going to grow. And making yourself uncomfortable is such a big part of this because you learn so much with every new thing that you post. And at the end of the day, you want to be authentic and real. It's why I love following Sophie Jaffe. She's an incredibly authentic creator, and I will never forget this post she made at this point, probably a year and a half ago, where her mom was dying. And she made a post that a lot of people don't talk about death on social media. It's really hard, and especially in American culture, I think we really avoid talking about death, honestly, to our own detriment. And she made this beautiful post saying, I felt momentary guilt walking into my mom's house empty-handed. What's the appropriate gift anyway for a dying mama? And she wrote this long, beautiful post saying, I really didn't want to talk about her death. But she did. And she made herself vulnerable, and she was real and raw. And she got so much engagement on this post. I think she had like an uptick of followers also after this post. For like a week after sharing this, she gained, I think, another 10,000 followers because people were just so warmed by seeing someone talk about something hard that most big creators don't talk about. It was real, it was honest, and it really invited you into her world. And that's how she was able to grow and sustain her growth as a big creator. You want to be consistent and familiar. And it's why I love following Rachel's Good Eats. I know that every single week she's going to post a video of a recipe and a workout. And that consistency in delivering those things keeps me. And she just hit, I think, 900,000 followers on Instagram. So that's what keeps me, plus another 900,000 people coming back for more. You want to be brave and different. And that's one of the reasons why I love following Whitney Simmons. Whitney Simmons has spoken a lot about her psoriasis journey. And given that she's in the fitness world tends to be an industry or a place where people are constantly picking apart other people for their physical appearance. A lot of fitness creators know that the large majority of the reason why people follow them is based on how they look. And so for someone in the fitness industry to showcase and spotlight a physical insecurity and to show less than glamorous skin was very brave of her. Because this is something that most people don't want to showcase. They don't want to shine a spotlight on their psoriasis. Mo if I had psoriasis, I probably wouldn't want to put a spotlight on my psoriasis. But if I was making fitness content and I knew that people were just looking at my body all the time and leaving harsh comments criticizing my body, it would be a million times harder for me to share that. And Whitney Simmons does that because she's brave. And in that, she has again grown so much trust from her audience. And lastly, you want to be inspiring and or you want to be entertaining. And if you guys follow Duolingo on TikTok, you know that they are highly entertaining. I loved when TikTok was going to shut down. They put out this great post of like How will I remind people to do their lesson if posting on TikTok becomes illegal? And it was this really, really funny Duolingo post of like these cop cars pulling up to a house because you're not allowed to be on TikTok. And again, the brand just has so much fun. They're so entertaining on TikTok, and that's how they've been able to grow such a huge following. At the end of the day, I want you guys to remember that your fans want to hear your story. You have silent fans online, even if you have an audience of, even if you have 50 people that follow you, there are fans in those 50 people and they want to hear your story. They want to see what you're excited about. It just comes down to giving yourself permission to do that. So thank you guys so much for having me. If you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out. Andy, I don't know if we'll take like any questions
Yeah,
now live
absolutely.
if anyone has, but I'm
Yeah,
an
I think
open
we've got
book.
yeah, I was gonna say, I think we've got a little bit of time for some questions. So if there's questions, feel free to drop them in the chat or pop up. Otherwise, you have Julia's information here. And as Julia, as you've said, you're more than welcome to hear questions or for people to reach out. Um,
Yeah.
so people could also reach out that way as well.
Yeah, absolutely. If you guys watch this, obviously, if you're here right now live in person, but if you're watching the replay, please feel free to reach out on any channel. I will definitely be the most responsive on Instagram. I can promise you that. But feel free to reach out on your channel of choice. I am at JBethJS everywhere. And yeah, I'm more than happy to answer your guys' questions as it relates to social media and or starting a business and or working with brands as a creator.
Now that you see AI more prominent, especially like in the social setting, how are you using AI and incorporating it into like everything that you do?
Devin, that's a great question. So, I am starting to incorporate AI in the following ways. So, when I have a really big idea for a campaign or something that I want to do with a client, you know what? Here, I'm going to speak to it a little generally and then I can get specific if you want. But basically, what I'm finding my favorite AI tool right now is ChatGPT. And I am finding that ChatGPT can be an incredible resource if you are willing to do the work to put in a very, very specific, detail-oriented prompt into ChatGPT. So here's what I'm not doing. I am not going to ChatGPT and saying, hey, can you write up a great Instagram post for me about why social media is powerful? I'm not doing that because that's going to be very, very generic. What they spit back might be good enough to post, but it's not going to be in my voice. And it's not really necessarily going to be the exact things that I would want to share with people. So, what I would probably do is I would go to ChatGPT and say, hey, can you help me write up a post about why social media is powerful? I'd like the post to start out with saying, we all know that social media has a lot of power, but it's all about how you use it and or how you take the time to blah blah. I'd give like a little prompt and then I would say, I want my audience to walk away with three particular takeaways. Number one, that they have to approach each platform uniquely. Number two, that they have to let their genuine and authentic selves show through their social media content. And number three, that they need to plan ahead in order to be successful on social media. Please take all three of these bullet points and expand with one or two sentences about why each of these points is important. And please make sure to end the post with an overall takeaway that encourages the audience to be brave and get started using social media today. That is a long prompt to put into ChatGPT. Sometimes it takes me 30 minutes to write the prompt that I'm putting into ChatGPT. But when I tell you what I'm getting back is so good because it's partially my voice. And what I'll also do is sometimes I'll feed to ChatGPT. I'll say, "Hey ChatGPT, here are 7 of my favorite Instagram captions that I've written." And I will go and copy and paste a ton of content into ChatGPT that I'm really proud of and say, can you write 3 additional social media posts that are similar to these in tone and voice? And so my long-winded answer is to say, I use ChatGPT a lot, but I don't use it generically. I use it extremely specifically. So I have built out an entire year's worth of a content roadmap for a client. And it was an insanely good roadmap, but it's because it took me like an hour to put the prompt in because I put in all this information about the client's goals, about the client's voice, about our target audience, about what buckets we were trying to post about. And then I said to ChatGPT, based on all of this information, make a content calendar outline and shell for the next year of content and make each month have its own unique theme. And again, it took me about an hour to put that prompt into ChatGPT, but it probably would have taken me 4.5 hours to make the plan itself. And so it took me an hour to put it in. I got something out that was really good. And then it probably took me only 45 minutes to tweak and customize what ChatGPT put together to really make it suitable for my client. So I would say absolutely lean into using ChatGPT, but don't use it in a generic way because then it is so clear that it is just this kind of like I think it's very easy to spot captions that are written by ChatGPT versus captions that are written by humans because the ChatGPT captions use a lot of buzzwords. They use the M dash, they use a lot of emojis. And I like those things, but it's all about making sure that they organically are appearing in a way that if I were talking to you in person, those things would like appear, if that makes any sense.
Yes,
That's
sorry.
really
I was taking
no,
a bit for me to unmute.
yeah, no, Devin, perfect. Thank you. Great question.
Yeah.
Julia, we also have another question in the chat about can we monetize our pages as international students or accept brand deals?
That's a great question. So I am not fully sure. You know what? You'd have to ask each, you'd have to talk to I don't know if you'd have to talk to like the university at all about this, but you definitely have to talk to each company because every single company is very different when it comes to getting brand deals. Like I always have to send like a W-2. I have to send particular paperwork to organizations that are going to pay me as a creator. And I would assume that based on my country of origin, that the paperwork there might be different forms that they need you to fill out, and or I'm sure that there are unfortunately some companies who aren't set up to be able to pay students or like creators in another currency. Like I don't fully know the ins and outs of making money as a creator from like the international side of things. But what I would do is if I were you, I would reach out to the brand that I'm interested in working with, or if a brand came to me and said they were interested in working with me, I would let them know my situation totally upfront. I would say, hey, here's the situation. Curious to know how we can make it work. If like what forms do you guys need? What do you guys need in order to be able to process payment? And so then you get all the information before you do a second of work for the brand. You want to make sure you have all of that information and you know exactly how you're getting paid and what those like payment terms are before you start the work. Because in working with a lot of creators over the years, I can tell you a lot of creators end up sadly, and I will say proudly, this has never once happened to me, but it happens to creators that sometimes creators don't get paid by brands. Sometimes you literally have an exchange with a brand and you think that you're going to get paid a set amount for a set project. And then brands ghost people. Brands get the content and say, oh, actually, we needed you to fill out this form. And then maybe you're not able to fill out the form or you don't have the right information. And then they have the content and they're like, oops, sorry. And then as a creator, you're left being like, well, I just did all this work for free that I wasn't planning on doing for free. So always make sure when you're working with brands in any capacity, get all the terms up front so that you know exactly what you're getting, what you are owed, and what you owe the brand. So that you just make that a really seamless experience for both of you. Because when you make it seamless, you then get repeat opportunities to work with the brand. I've been working with Canyon Bakehouse on a paid basis for over 3 years now. And I make it very, very easy for them to work with me. And they make it very, very easy for me to work with them. And because we've just got a thing like this now, it's just easy and seamless. And that's exactly what you want when you're doing brand partnership work.
And I'll add to that, you might want to check with the office, international student office about visa restrictions,
Yes.
because it will depend on a lot of times if you're an international student on your visa, if you've got optional practical training or curricular practical training authorization, or whether or not you can kind of make money and monetize it from that. Unfortunately, the US is incredibly strict on what you can do on your visa while you're here. So check with them about what your visa status allows you to do and accept. But if you can, great, and kind of follow the steps.
Yeah. And if you can't, let the brand know that you can't for some reason because of your visa, and let them know. Like if you have a plan to not necessarily stay in the country and you're going to go back to your country and then that changes things, like maybe just say to the brand, like, I'll be back in X place at X time of the year. Maybe we can reconnect then and talk about possible opportunities. Like always try to keep the door open, even if you're not able to do something now, always try and keep opportunities open with anyone.
Well, I think that's all we have time for today. I do want to say thank you, everyone, for taking the time to join us for today's masterclass. Julia, thank you so much, as always, for your knowledge, your expertise, and your enthusiasm for this topic. And
Thank you
I'd say
guys.
join us all next week for our next masterclass. If you have the time, and we look forward to seeing you all again. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks so much, Andy.